Hi, I'm Piero. I want to talk about which is more fundamental. Which is more fundamental? Okay, the will or the material? Now, maybe I shouldn't say, but I'm going to point this out that in a lot of my videos and my ideas, the most important thing is the third idea, okay? The third idea is the comparison. So when I invoke the will and I invoke the material, there's this third idea which is comparing the two. And in this case, I'm comparing them to see which is more fundamental. So probably the most important thing in this video is my definition of fundamental. That'll serve some purposes. And if we decide I'm wrong about which is more fundamental, it'll lead to some work on the definition of fundamental. Okay, so what is the definition of fundamental? Well, something is fundamental in the sense that I'm going to talk about now, but with will and the material, based on how immediately accessible knowledge of it is. How much abstractions did I have to go through? How many levels of abstractions? Did I have to make an abstraction, then take all the abstractions I made and make an abstraction from them? If so, and the idea is way up here, then it's less fundamental. Maybe better, maybe a more exciting truth, it may be more useful, it could be any other quality, but it would be less fundamental. And the meaning of fundamental is I'd be less sure of it than something more immediate. Okay. For me, the basis of all knowledge is that I exist. I exist. And as I said in my last video on this side topic, I define existence. So I'm taking my experiences and I'm calling that existence. So first of all, the most fundamental thing will be that I have experiences. Okay, and what does it mean to have experiences? Well, to have experiences is to have perceptions. Okay, so the most fundamental thing is our perceptions. Now, after that is all things that we perceive. So in a way, there's a barrier around our mind that is this threshold through which we perceive. Okay? But still within the realm of the mind, there's things we perceive about the mind. Now, will is something we perceive within the mind. The will is within our realm of perceptions. Specifically, we have perceptions. Some are sense perceptions, some are illusion. The illusion can be mixed in and is generally mixed in with the sense perceptions. Now, in addition to sense perceptions, we have motor functions. Okay, so this is our feeling of will, that we think we are controlling our bodies. Again, this is secondary compared to perceptions themselves. It could be an illusion. It's sort of the first shell of things that could be an illusion. Now, it's not an illusion to have a perception that is an illusion. We really had that perception. If you have a dream and you report that dream to somebody else, you really did have that dream. Now, you called the dream an illusion because you realize, hey, this wasn't sense perception. But it was still rather an immediate experience that you really did have as a bunch of perceptions. Now, it might not mean what you think it means. It might not mean what the perceptions sort of are obviously trying to present. Like you have a dream of a family dinner that didn't really happen with some dead relatives in it. Didn't really mean you were there at that dinner like it would if it was a sense perception. But it's still an immediate thing in terms of you had this experience. Will happens within this realm, and we have not got to the material yet. Why? Because the material world is outside of this whole schema of the mind. That's the whole idea of the theory of the material world, is that it's out there. Okay, so we get information through our senses from which we deduce that there's a material world. Okay, so we're still pretty fundamental with materialism, but it's out beyond, it's outside the mind. It's less immediate than my experiences of my own will. Okay, and I can have a sense of will in a dream. Okay, whether it's an illusion or not is an interesting question. I actually think this is where a lot of the free will people might want to go. I have a couple examples that are almost pro this anti-free will idea. It's just that I don't think they go all the way to removing our will. They just show that we don't really understand our will. But if we understand them better, we can exercise our will. So that's why I believe in, free will, or at least willpower. And but anyway, so for me, will has to be more fundamental because it is a more immediate sensation than this theory of the material world. Now, having said that, as I said, these abstractions that we have at higher levels, at less fundamental levels, can still be low enough that we believe them fully. They can be more useful. And in that vein, I am a materialist. My senses have led me to, have a belief in the material world, that we're all material, that my body is material, that my mind is in my brain, is made of material, that it's a phenomena of a material, physical set of objects, chemical reactions, energy. So I am materialist. But that is a theory that is not as fundamental as the theory that I have will. The fact that I have will comes to me immediately. And conceivably, though I've never really been able to try this, thankfully, if I had no senses, I can still imagine having a theory of the will. I would still have some interaction experience with the will. So it's more fundamental than the material world, where if I had no senses, I don't think I could have a theory of the material world. I'd have theories about the dream world, but I wouldn't be able to have a theory about the so-called real material world. So even though I'm a materialist, I recognize that that theory is less fundamental than will. There's implications on our discussions about will, but I think the main point is just as I put it. I'm not necessarily trying to make a point on the free will debate directly, though I think you can maybe draw some conclusions about it.